Everyone has heard the advice, right?
Absolutely. It's everywhere.
When the world feels, I don't know, too loud, or your thoughts are just looping and that anxiety is
My
spiking,
go-to answer.
the go-to is always just journal, write it all down.
And it's sold as this simple, perfect therapeutic tool.
But for a massive chunk of people, and I'm definitely in this group, staring at that blank page doesn't bring peace. It just brings panic.
Mm.
It feels like you're being asked to do mental sprints, but you're wearing lead shoes. It's overwhelming, and you feel like you failed at it.
And what's so fascinating here, and what our source material makes crystal clear, is that the failure isn't you. It's not personal.
Right.
It's a fundamental mismatch between how your brain is actually built to process emotion and this analog tool of writing.
Okay, let's unpack that. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the cognitive science that explains exactly why the simple act of speaking your thoughts, not writing them, is a research-backed shortcut to emotional regulation.
To clarity.
To clarity. We're going to explore why traditional writing, for a lot of you listening, to clarity. We're going to explore why traditional writing, for a lot of you listening, is basically asking your brain to think in a foreign language.
So our mission today is to really dig into the core neuroscience, something called affect labeling. We'll look at the massive speed mismatch between your thoughts and your hands.
Right. Okay, so let's start with what you called the dropout problem. Because we're all told journaling works, but the data says people just quit.
The data strongly supports that intuition. I mean, despite being recommended everywhere, therapeutic journaling is one of the most abandoned mental health practices out there.
Wow.
We see research suggesting that 25% or more of participants just abandon the practice.
25%.
We see research suggesting that 25% or more of participants just abandon the practice.
25%.
And this is in clinical studies where they're actually paid to be there.
That's astonishing. If 1 in 4 people bails when there's money on the line, we have to look at whether it's actually effective.
Absolutely. And when you zoom out to the bigger scientific picture, the skepticism, it grows. There was a huge 2022 systematic review that found therapeutic journaling only showed, and I'm quoting here, small to moderate effect sizes.
Small to moderate?
Yeah, and it was often accompanied by high degrees of methodological flaws.
Yeah.
So in plain English, it's just not the magic bullet everyone claims it is.
So if the effect is small and people quit, what are the roadblocks? What's getting in the way?
Well, researchers flag 3 main barriers.
Okay.
First is just poor participation. People don't do it consistently.
Okay.
Second is that feeling of, vulnerability or exposure that someone might find their journal.
Of course.
But the third, and I think the most important one for our conversation, is the simple inability to stay on track, to actually capture your thoughts effectively.
And that third point, that inability to capture thoughts, that's where we hit the real science of the mismatch, right? It all just boils down to friction.
Exactly. Friction. Your emotional system, your thoughts, they move at this incredible speed. But your hands just can't keep up.
Let's put some numbers on that.
Yeah, let's quantify it.
Yeah.
So the average person, speaking naturally like we are now, clocks in at about 150 words per minute.
Okay, 150.
Now, if you're typing, that speed just plummets. It drops to maybe 40 words per minute.
Wow. Okay. Big drop.
And if you're handwriting, the classic way, you are crawling along at around 15 words per minute.
So handwriting has 10 times more friction than speaking. 10 times. The effort of just forming the letters is huge.
It creates a cognitive bottleneck.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Your thoughts aren't going to wait for your fingers.
Right.
And when you introduce that much friction, you interrupt the very flow you need for emotional processing. The moment you pause to find a word or just to write, the original feeling has already shifted.
And the journal entry feels, incomplete, inaccurate?
Exactly. That's why people abandon it.
Yeah.
It feels too slow and too draining to actually be useful.
Which brings us perfectly to the core scientific discovery here, the thing that underpins this whole voice-first approach. It's called affect labeling.
And this isn't just a trend. This is hard neuroscience.
Yeah.
Sourced from UCLA research that spanned nearly a decade.
Okay, so what is the mechanism? How does it work?
What's so amazing is how simple and immediate it is. The core finding is this. Simply naming your emotions out loud reduces activity in your amygdala by up to 50%.
50%. That is not a small shift.
It's a massive physiological change.
So just by vocalizing the words, I feel frustrated, or I am dealing with sadness, you cut the stress response in half.
Pretty much. I mean, think of the amygdala as your brain's smoke detector. When it's firing, you feel that dread, that panic. It's screaming, fight, run.
Yeah.
The moment you apply a specific label out loud, like anger or resentment,
Right.
you engage a totally different part of your brain,
Which is?
the prefrontal cortex.
Yes.
That's your rational control center, your CEO, basically.
So when the amygdala activity goes down,
The prefrontal cortex activity goes up.
so you're using the most evolved, rational part of your brain to literally hit the brakes on the most primitive, fear-based part.
You got it. You shift the emotion from this overwhelming, formless fog into a labeled, manageable object.
And clarity just emerges. Not because you solved anything, but because you created the quiet you needed to even approach the problem.
Precisely. You go from reactive to rational.
Okay, so if that's the regulating mechanism, let's talk about efficiency. We know voice is faster, but why does it work better than writing on a deeper cognitive level?
Right, because if you're a fast piper, shouldn't that be enough?
Exactly.
Well, there are three major research-backed reasons. First, the speed actually matches your thought process in a productive way.
How so?
When you speak out loud, your thoughts are forced to slow down, but just enough. It's this sweet spot.
Yeah.
Fast enough to keep up, but slow enough to actually structure the chaos.
It's a Goldilocks zone of processing.
You could say that. The second advantage is that verbal self-guidance actually improves performance.
You mean like talking yourself through something?
Yeah, think about athletes or surgeons. They often talk themselves through complex steps. Vocalizing helps you sequence tasks, maintain focus, and avoid making mistakes. It's like an audible map for your brain.
So you're creating an external structure for an internal mess.
Mm-hmm. And the third point comes back to energy, which is just,
Yeah.
it's key for everyone. It's the cognitive load benefit.
Cognitive load.
This is maybe the most important part. Research shows that speaking requires about 40% less executive function than writing does.
40% less brain power. Can you give me an analogy for that? What is my brain spending that extra 40% on when I write?
When you write, your brain is running all these other high-demand programs in the background. You've got fine motor control, spelling checks, grammar checks, organizing the text on the page.
So the mechanics.
It's all mechanics. When you speak, that's mostly automated. So that 40% of your mental bandwidth is suddenly free. It's free to actually process the emotion or the problem,
It's like closing a bunch of apps running on your phone.
instantly improving the battery life. So you have 40% more mental battery for the rest of your day, just because you spoke instead of wrote.
And that lower cognitive load is what lets this practice actually fit into a real busy life, which this is where the walking bonus comes in.
Oh, this combination is so powerful. Stanford research found that just walking increases your creative output by 60% compared to sitting still.
60%.
So since voice processing doesn't require you to be still, you can do it while you're walking or driving or doing the dishes. You get to tap into that movement-induced clarity.
And we all know that our best thinking happens when we're in motion, right? The whole shower thoughts idea.
Exactly. You get to capture those insights right when they happen. You're combining low cognitive effort with a high creative flow.
This is where it gets really important for how you, the listener, see yourself. Because for 30 to 40% of people, choosing voiceover writing isn't a preference.
No, it's not a productivity hack. It's a necessity. It's based on how their brain is structurally built. We're talking about cognitive styles.
So you have internal processors and verbal processors.
Exactly. And for those 30 to 40% who are verbal processors, they don't think before they talk. They literally think by talking.
They need to hear themselves think.
Yes. Their thoughts stay, as one source put it, dim and fuzzy until expressed verbally.
This sounds entirely like me. I will start talking about something, and only halfway through do I actually figure out what my point is.
That is the textbook experience of a verbal processor. For you, the writing pathways in your brain are just less fluent than your speaking pathways.
So traditional journaling is asking me to think in a cognitive mode that isn't native to me.
It's forcing a translation that requires higher friction and more energy. And there's even research that connects this to conditions like ADHD.
How so?
The research on cognitive scaffolding suggests that for many with ADHD, external speech acts as an anchor. It helps to externalize that internal chaos and create the structure that the brain needs.
So you have the internal processor, strong inner monologue, journaling works well for them. And the verbal processor who needs to talk it out to find clarity.
And the takeaway is so important. Neither style is better. They're just different paths to the same goal.
Right.
Recognizing your own style is the aha moment for so many people who thought they were just bad at self-reflection.
No, let's turn our gaze outward a bit. If we accept the science of effect labeling, it really challenges a lot of mainstream wellness advice.
It does. It forces us to look at some uncomfortable truths, starting with mindfulness.
Which is a massive billion-dollar industry.
A huge market, But the research tells a much more complicated story.
So, when you compare the passive observation in mindfulness to the active processing of affect labeling, what stands out?
We see a lot of evidence that for many people, passive observation can actually be counterproductive. There was a study that found 60% or more of intensive meditation practitioners reported negative effects,
Wait, what kind of negative effects?
increased anxiety, panic, even depression.
A majority of intensive users report negative effects.
Yeah.
That's a staggering failure rate.
And it wasn't a one-off. A massive study of over 8,000 school children in the UK found that mindfulness programs failed to improve their mental health.
And may have even harmed some students.
May have harmed some at-risk students, yes. And this points to that crucial difference. For some people, sitting still and just noticing mounting panic is the worst thing you can do.
They need the active release.
They need the active release. They need to acknowledge, name, and regulate the emotion through vocalization, not just watch it happen.
Which brings us to the other big one, the pressure cooker of forced optimism. The toxic positivity trap.
Good vibes only.
Right. Just be grateful. All this pressure to just suppress how you really feel.
And suppressing emotion isn't just hard, it's physiologically damaging. Research found that emotional suppression leads to 23% higher cortisol levels.
So trying to force yourself to be happy literally stresses out your body.
Absolutely. Your body registers the effort of hiding how you feel as acute self-inflicted stress. The cortisol, the stress hormone, goes way up.
But voice processing is different.
It's different because it captures authentic emotion, your tone, your pace, your hesitation. You can't fake it when you speak out loud. Affect labeling demands real acknowledgement.
Which leads to real regulation, not forced optimism.
Exactly.
So this whole stack of evidence, what does it mean for you, the person listening, trying to find some real clarity? Let's just recap the evidence quickly.
Okay. We established that voice processing gives you an immediate 50% drop in amygdala activity. It's your fastest anxiety regulator.
It's 3.75 times faster than typing, which means you can finally keep pace with your own thoughts.
And it demands 40% less cognitive load than writing, which frees up that crucial mental bandwidth you need for everything else in your day.
Plus, you can do it while walking, getting that 60% boost in creative output that the Stanford research found.
And if we connect all of that confirmed science, the emotional regulation, the reduced cognitive load, with another key piece of research, which found that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals when they're written or spoken down. Well, that raises a really important question for you.
What new possibilities does this open up, knowing you have a faster, less draining, scientifically proven way to process your emotions and solidify your goals at the same time?
If speaking your thoughts can manage your anxiety while simultaneously making you more likely to hit your goals, what complex problems, what personal barriers or major life plans could you finally conquer? Just by talking them out.
Instead of trying to force them onto a page that was never really designed for your brain in the first place.
Exactly.
Food for thought. That's been the deep dive.